So good morning, everybody, and welcome to 15 Minutes with Lori. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about mindset this morning. I'm going to read something here from a book that I have, and it's called The Ultimate Playbook. The best athletes, performers, business people all have one thing in common. They play the internal game. If you ask high achievers who they compete against, it is generally not another competitor. They tend to compete against what's possible. All high achievers develop simple baseline habits, such as morning routines, avoiding detours, and are self-disciplined to stay consistent on their best use of their time. For you to be on the road to high achievement in your role, you need an absolute do have the following. So the first one is going to be time blocking, and we talk about time blocking all the time. Super important. You must build a wall, a ceiling, and a floor around that activity so nobody can disturb it. You will have plenty of time to do other things, to address the other things in your life and your business. You will, let's see here. Without mastering the time blocking, the effectiveness of everything else you do will be severely marginalized. Time blocking is so important. There are certain things in your lives that you time block and you don't think about it like that, like going to the salon or going to the gym. Maybe it could be hanging out with a friend or going grocery shopping. Those are all things that we tend to time block, but don't think of it like that. But in order to pay for those things, we need to time block things that are for prospecting, business generation. Business generation is the key to this business in developing a successful business for yourself. You also have to have a big vision, something that is so powerful that others might think that you can't do, or maybe you can't think you do, but you want it. So you've got to have that mindset that you know you can achieve it. But there are things that you have to do in order to achieve that. And that is time blocking, time out to do business generation activities. Here's a quote that I really like. High achievers have the ability to do things they know they should do, even when they don't want to do it. None of us have ever said, I love to pick up the phone and call cold calling. I love to go door knocking strangers' houses. Nobody ever said we love doing that. But if you want to be successful in this business, you've got to overcome that fear and step over that threshold and actually do it. That quote came from Nick Saban. So the high achievers also adapt a mindset that plays the numbers game. In fact, almost all successful businesses don't worry as much about the rejection factor and focus on the conversion ratio. The secret of success is that they are religious about time blocking and making contacts. So don't focus on the negative, the rejection. Honestly, we're going to get a lot of that. We're going to have so much of that because that's the majority of what we have. We all see it. Every successful agent sees that. But you're looking for the one person that will say yes. To achieve the highest level, it's imperative that you find discipline in your daily routine to sometimes do activities that you don't feel like doing, because these activities ultimately fuel your big goals. So how many of us actually time block to do the things that we don't love to do? Every industry, every job out there, there's something about it that somebody doesn't like, but we all have to do it to be successful. So if you truly want success in this business, you got to pick up those phones and you've got to do the door knocking, the things that actually work. This goes way back for decades. This stuff actually works. We tend to scroll off and say, oh, I think I'm going to focus on mailers. I think I'm just going to focus on marketing. I think I'm just going to focus on social media. That's all great, and that will add to your business. But we got to get back to the basics, because the basics is what works. When Norm started real estate in 1986, he went into Mark Hoffman's office and said, "Mark, the phone's not ringing." And Mark said, "Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you that. It's not going to ring." And Norm asked him, "Well, then how do I get business?" And Mark said, "You have to pick up the phone and call people." Norm was very, very successful because he had a mindset and discipline and a routine to do the things that we don't love to do. And that was phone calls and door knocking. He shared with me that every day on his way home, he made a habit of knocking on 10 doors every day. And Norm really was successful. He did quite a few $1 million worth of business when he was actually selling. So, all the things that we talk to everybody about, we may sound like a broken record, but it really truly works. So the reason why making appointments sticks via cold calling can be challenging is because it doesn't feel like it's important enough to meet the needs for the opportunity that you gain. So you've got to know, what is it today about the phone calls that's going to help me tomorrow? Okay. You've got to have that vision. What are those phone calls going to do for me in the future? It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it could be 6 months down the road. And that business is important too. So let's face it, if there's an opportunity to go on $1 million listing call, we have no issues finding time to schedule to attend that, right? Obviously. Think about what $1 million listing would be to you. It is an opportunity to gain with no guarantees. We'll drop everything in time to do that, right? When you master the technique to set appointments with an opportunity to gain in the eyes of the prospect, you will begin to set appointments at a higher level. But you have to decide why you need to prospect and who are you going to call. So each day when you come in, be prepared ahead of time. Make sure you gather up all those phone numbers, know who you're going to call, know the scripts that you're going to use when you reach out to them, because that's indeed going to help you. And final, the key to becoming successful is the conversations that we have daily with prospects. It is simple, but it's not easy. Bill, is there anything you'd like to share this morning?
Get off. There we go. I'm off mute. I take this story and I think about when I first started with Hewlett Packard and I was training techs. And at that time, I was scared to talk to the technicians because they knew everything and I was afraid of being wrong. And then one time my boss told me I had to present in front of 130 people at a convention and they're all technicians. So I was like, okay, how am I going to overcome this? And I set time and I did my training. I made sure I had placement and I got better at it. And the more you do these things and you set your time blocking and you set your time to grow yourself, you can be, really good at what you do and you can become successful. And you're not worried about going door knocking. You're not worried about picking up that phone. You're not worried about talking to somebody that might be having a bad day. You're getting all these adjectives or they're just not nice, but you just brushed off because you're doing things right.
Absolutely. I back that up. When I started all those years ago, the only thing that got me business was getting out and talking to people and picking up the phone and calling. Expireds and for sale by owners. Well, let's talk about expireds for a minute. They may have had a bad experience. They may not want to use a realtor again, but they need the right realtor. And they're never going to find you if you don't reach out to them, right? And I know that they're getting a lot of phone calls, but when they tell you that they are getting a ton of phone calls and they don't want calls anymore, you can say, great, because I'm the last one. And then go through the scripts. So we have those scripts in Dotloop. And just so you all know, in my CB Desk, under the Coldwell Banker University platform, the app, there are a lot of scripts, more than you can even imagine. Find one that works for you, right? Find one that works with your personality and use it. but consistently use the exact same script every time you call because you're going to be good at it. Mark, is there anything you would like to share this morning?
I mean, you already covered it. It's just a matter of, being consistent with prospecting and, being recognized. Organizations, if your kids are in sports or your church, you just got to make sure your name is out there. I mean, I don't prospect. I've got several transactions going this year just from people I know from church. And so you just got to just be consistent. And it may not happen right away, but it'll happen eventually.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. So there's so many different ways to prospect. There's getting out in the community, like Mark said, and being in front of everyone. And it's, overcoming our fears and picking up the phone and calling the for sale by owners and expireds. It's your mindset. You're the one who has to decide what kind of business that you want to do. And without doing the business generation activities, obviously there's no business to have. So is there any questions or comments that anyone would like to share?
I just wanted to add that for me, I've been doing this for 6 years now. And so I've been reaching out to clients that I have closed with about, 4 to 6 years ago, because it's kind of around that time that, they might want to be looking again. And they've been naturally reaching out to me too. So that's what made me think, hey, I need to, go back and get all those people that I worked with those years ago.
Absolutely. And Josie, I'm so glad you brought that up because I can't believe I overlooked that, because that is one of the number one ways to get business is to call your past clients. Mm-hmm. You need to stay in contact with them on a regular basis. The day after they close on their property, how is the move? 2 weeks, how is everything getting settled in? Go visit them in 2 months. Keep them on an email campaign, on a mailing campaign, a regular phone call. They need to know that they have somebody that they can trust in real estate, even if they're not ready to do something right now. Their friends and family might be, and their sphere of influence. So they have all the same people we have. And if you're staying in front of them and keeping in contact with them and building that trust, they're absolutely going to share your name with everyone. Okay, but thank you so much, Josie, for doing that. And the average homeowner does move every 7 years. Some more, some less, but you've got to make sure you stay in front of them. So thank you very much for sharing that. That's all we have for today. Thank you for joining, and we will talk to you all later. Have a great week and stay cool.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.